Well, hello, and welcome to this week's episode of Bob's Live, our mostly weekly show here on the internet. Um, if you've noticed, I missed last week, and for obvious reasons, if you've looked outside, it was a little bit snowy. And also, my wife and I were having some remodeling work done at our house, so that's a whole other thing right now. um, but yeah, so last week I had to take a little break. We're back this week, and we're heading into wintertime. So, there's not a lot to do gardening wise in the wintertime. But the greenhouse, it is really busy right now. This time of year, it is our peak growing season. So, right now, we are sowing tons of seedlings and getting them ready to ship out the door to other greenhouses and garden centers where they can grow them into a finished product, much like what we have at our own stores. So, I thought we'd start off today by taking a look at what's happening out in the greenhouse right now. This time of year, it could be a little bit cold and snowy outside, but it is nice and warm here in the greenhouse. And thanks to some supplemental lighting, it's even sunny. Here we have some beautiful pansies that'll be shipping out in the next couple weeks. If you've ever grown canna lilies, they get their start from seed, and each one of these trays has 144 seedlings in it. And you can see the bronze leaf here in the front and the green leaf there in the back. The last time we were out in this section of the greenhouse, the floor behind me was covered with fern hanging baskets. And now you can see those have been moved to hanging positions in the ceiling and also between the bays. But here in the greenhouse, we now have begonia seedlings. So each square area that you see behind me right here is 50 trays. And I just did some quick math, and in this half of the greenhouse, we have right around 16,000 plug trays. And if we take our average tray size and multiply that out, that's right around 5 million seedlings that we have growing just in this half of this greenhouse. So you can divide that by 2, and then we have another 10 acres or so out front that we're starting to fill up. And also, kind of cool, this whole section right here in this half of the greenhouse, it's all begonias. So let's take a closer look at some of the seedlings. So this begonia variety is Prelude Plus White. It's a bedding begonia. And I'm going to point so you get my finger for a sense of scale, but right there we can see the leaves of a little begonia seedling. And let's zoom in on it. So these are little teeny tiny seedlings. So here we have the exact same variety of begonias, but these are ready to ship out. So these will be heading out the door to another greenhouse or garden center to be transplanted and grown to a finished size. If you want to be kept up to date with spring crops like these begonias, head over to our website at bobsmarket.com, where you can find links to our social media and helpful blog posts, recipes, and more. So that is what's happening out in the greenhouse. And as I said in the video, give us a follow online. If you're watching the video right now, give us a like, thumbs up, a share. That helps us reach more people and helps Bob's Live keep growing. And that's what we want to do, is reach as many people as we can. Uh, because not only are we, of course, trying to sell plants, but we also want to share gardening. And, there's no better way to do it than online, because something like Facebook or Bob's Live video here, it's visual. And gardening is a visual art form. So, today, what I wanted to talk about is houseplants. So, if you've been over to our website recently, we've kind of shifted gears on our blog and we're talking about caring for houseplants. And I have quite a collection of houseplants here in my office. So I have another camera set up. It's going to take me a couple seconds to move stuff around here. So let me do that and we'll switch to the other camera so we can take a look at some of the houseplants in here. Alrighty, I can kind of see myself. Let me, do that. Move the microphone. There we go. I can see like 50% of the camera. And can you hear me okay? Give me a thumbs up if you can hear me. Of course, I can't see. There we go. Okay, I think I've got everything moved around here. Where am I looking? There. So this is my office, and I see Gloria great, just like the stream. Awesome. I have quite a collection of houseplants in here, and most of them are something that at some point I did a video on them. So we've talked about snake plants and money trees, and my poor little avocado tree that's just really pitiful right now. It's kind of gone, they're not really supposed to go dormant, but it tends to in the wintertime. It drops some leaves, and this year it went full on leaf drop. So I've trimmed it in hopes that it'll start to branch out some more. And then I've got some other plants like this sago palm. It was looking really good until a few months ago, and it has just started turning yellow on me. Sometimes you have little failures like this when it comes to growing a garden, and especially houseplants. They take a lot of trial and error, and especially in our area, the conditions change throughout the year. So this time of year is the time of year that's really rough on houseplants, because inside it is super dry right now. So it's kind of hidden back here. It's actually behind the microphone. Sitting in the windowsill, I have a humidifier that's pumping out it's one of those cool mist humidifiers, so it's pumping out a cool mist of water vapor, and that's kind of helping my plants. Hey, that sago palm is really pokey. This time of year, you have to kind of combat the dry humidity. So it takes, one thing is having a humidifier like that. The other thing is watering more often. And it's one of those that you have to kind of find a balance. So, like right now, this avocado tree doesn't have any leaves on it, so it doesn't need watering nearly as much as it would. But a lot of the other plants in here, because of the dry air, need watered more often. So, watering is one key. Another thing is using something like a mister bottle to spray the plants down. So in the mornings when I get into the office, one of the first things I do is fire up my coffee maker. Next thing I do is squirt down my plants and give them a nice misting. And it also helps if you're noticing dust build up on your plants. You can kind of really douse them down with the mister bottle, and that'll help get the dust off of them. Another thing you can do this time of year is trim some of your plants back. So I have pothos all over the place in here. And I kind of picked a bad camera angle because none of it is in the frame. So running along the ceiling overhead right here, I have a pothos vine that's probably 10 feet long. I just have it attached to the drop ceiling with paper clips. And I just make a new hook with a paper clip and just extend it as it continues to grow. And then running along where I have the shelf here with all of my houseplants, there's a pothos vine that's snaked through here. But something that I'm noticing is where it's wintertime right now, a lot of these vines are starting to drop leaves and they're starting to look not so great. So my plan is to cut a few of them back and use those cuttings to propagate more pothos. Because I've got pothos, I've got 1, 2, 3, 4 pothos plants in here, and they've all came from the same pot over the years. And the original pot it's sitting up here on top of my bookshelf. I got that plant, I think it was in 2006. It was when a friend of mine moved into her house, and when she bought the house, the previous owner had kind of just abandoned the plant there. I took it home, transplanted it, and it's been hanging out here in my office ever since. And I've taken cuttings off of it over the years and started more because they're super easy to propagate. So what I'm going to do is actually use one of my Christmas gifts this year. And my sister-in-law and her husband got me this gift for Christmas. It is a little plant propagating rack. So it has these little glass tubes in it. So there's one of the tubes. And you just put your cuttings down in it with some water. So I've got a couple pieces of dumb cane here that were starting to kind of die back. So I cut those off. I'm going to try to grow some roots on them and then repot them. So you can see this guy here. So hopefully it starts to grow some roots on the bottom of it. I've had success water rooting dumb cane like this before, so I'm going to give that a try. But I've got 3 other tubes here, and I'm going to cut the ends off of some of the pothos to start them. So let me find my scissors. And first up, I don't know if you can see it there. I can't get it into the frame, but right there we can see a leaf. I actually have a pothos that goes all the way out and around my desk here. So I'm going to take a cutting off of it. So I'll go with this one. Well, first we'll get closer to the camera so I can show you what I'm dealing with here. with the pothos, and Patty says she likes this rooting system. I like it too. I think it's pretty cool. With the pothos, you'll notice on it that it kind of grows in nodes. So as it grows, a section of stem will come out, and then it produces a leaf, and then it'll grow another section of stem, and then another leaf. And wherever those sections are, it has little nodes in between. And all of these little nodes, if it were on a forest floor, it would be putting out roots and just making more places for it to soak up nutrients. And then also, it has kind of these larger nodes right here. And if it were growing up a tree, those, it actually kind of welds itself to the tree. It's almost like a glue that it produces. So some of the sap will come out and stick it to something. It could even be the wall. And I've had instances where the pothos that I'm training in here, it's actually stuck itself to the paint on my office wall. Cleans off pretty easy. You can, at least with this paint, I can use some Windex and it'll come right off. But what I'm going to do is snip off this little leaf here because I don't need it. And let's see how that looks. So if I stick it in the tube right there, that looks pretty good. That gets it about halfway down into the tube. And now I'm probably going to make a mess because I decided not to set up a table for this. But let's pour some water in. And there we go. We should be ready to start rooting that. And the cool thing with the pothos is I don't have to have a fresh end like that where it's growing right out the end of the plant. I can take a cutting from the middle of the vine. So let me find another section here. And this is coming right off of that same plant. So right here's where I just made my cut. I'm actually going to go and cut this section off like right here. And I'm just going to get rid of this because I don't need it. And then I don't need this leaf right here. But what I have done now is create a nice stem with a couple leaves. And I'm going to use that to grow my roots. So it came from the same end as this. This was the end of the plant right here, the end of the vine. And this was the section right before it. So it was, down here somewhere. But it's going to be happy. It doesn't care because in nature, an animal might go along and bite the end off of this plant. So it's got systems, it's got its own biological system to take care of that. So there we go. And now we just need one more. I'm actually going to cut off quite a big chunk here. Just mainly for trimming this thing. Because it got kind of unwieldy. Cut off this. Cut off that one too. that section. And this one, this is where I might have a problem, because this has a little bit of a curve to it, and I have a straight tube. So we're going to see how well this works. Oh, and it is really getting stuck in there. Okay, I was gentle with it, and it went right. And there we go. So, got my plants started rooting. Once these grow roots on them, I can pull them out here in a few weeks and transplant them into some soil and start all over. The cool thing with this kit is, well, for one, it came with an extra glass tube in case I drop one. I am a little bit accident prone. But it also came with a nice nifty test tube brush to clean these out once I'm done. So once these get roots, I can take them, transplant them, clean out the tubes, and then start over again. So I think this is going to be a fun experiment. I'm going to put these, for now, I'm going to just stick them there in my window. We'll see how they do right there. That might be a little bit too bright for them. Might need to move them later. But yeah, that is one easy way to propagate pothos. And then there's a whole bunch of other houseplants that you can do. I've got dumb cane there. Mother-in-law's tongue, it's another one that you can propagate in water. And then also setting over here, I have a ZZ plant, Zamacoccus zamifolia. So that's why we call it ZZ plant. But this is another one that you can propagate in water. You can take cuttings of the stems, and it does take them a long time to root. So all of them that I've ever grown in water, rooting them, it's taken about 4 to 6 weeks for them to start to produce roots, because ZZ plants are extremely slow growing. So I'll show you two that I've rooted actually about a year ago. So these two I grew roots on, and we actually planted them on an episode of Bob's Live last year. But they are slow growing. So it's taking them so long to grow that they haven't even sent out other shoots yet. And it'll take probably a couple years before they start to produce other shoots. I have another one over here, and it took it about 2 years before it started sending up more shoots. And part of that is because ZZ plants are actually a tuberous plant. So if I were to dig down and dig it up, it has a little tuber down on the bottom of it where the roots started that almost looks like a little miniature potato. So it has to take time to grow that out before it can start sending up more shoots. All right, so that is the current state of my houseplant collection. I need to do some more work on it. There's some things, like I showed you with the sago palm, that I need to replace. But now is the perfect time of year to do that. We can't be outside working in the garden, so we can bring our gardening inside and do things like fun experiments like propagating plants. So, well, let me get back to my desk and get that set up so we can finish off this episode, because I want to end it this week with a bang. And you'll see why here in a second. Let me get us back. Oh no. Oh, mousy. Oh, there it is. I lost the mouse. Okay. Alright, so let's end this week's episode with a bang. This past weekend, I got news that they were going to be blowing up Unit 5 at the old Sporn power plant above New Haven. And it's kind of special for me because when I was in college, and oh man, this makes me feel old. When I was in college 20 years ago, I worked up there in the summertime. So I spent 3 summers up there, basically climbing all over Unit 5, sweeping up fly ash, cleaning coal belts. If you've ever seen the show Dirty Jobs on TV, kind of like that. But hey, it paid the rent. So it was kind of cool for me to be able to go up and see something get blown up that I've actually stood on top of. And to me, this plant, the section that they blew up was about 200 feet tall. It's just mind boggling to see how quickly it just disappeared. So let's end the show with that. All right. And that is all that I have for this week's episode of Bob's Live. I think my mic might have been muted. I'm not sure. We'll have to watch it back. But anyhow, if my mic was muted, that was the demolition of Unit 5 at Sporn. And I used to work there in the summertime a long, long time ago. About 20 years ago when I was in college. So until next time, keep growing.